The people of Earth were living in their usual rhythm when the sky suddenly carried a new sign. At first it looked like a group of bright stars appearing together. Astronomers watched carefully, thinking it was only a natural event. But the lights grew larger and clearer each night. They did not move like planets or comets. They moved with order, in straight lines, and always closer to Earth. News spread quickly. Screens in homes, schools, and city squares showed the strange formation. Families gathered together, watching in silence. Some thought it was only an unusual object. Others whispered that it might be visitors from far away. Within days, there was no doubt. The lights were ships, and they were not human. A great fleet entered the solar system. Their shapes were huge, shining with silver and blue surfaces that reflected sunlight. Each ship seemed larger than any structure humans had ever built. The size of the fleet was enough to make the whole world wonder if Earth had any chance to resist. The first message came soon after. Every radio, television, and digital screen on Earth went blank for a moment. Then a new voice spoke. It was calm, deep, and carried a sense of command. A figure appeared with features not quite like any creature on Earth. Tall, with smooth skin that shimmered faintly, and eyes that seemed to glow. The message was simple: we have arrived. Your world will now join our empire. Submission will bring you protection and knowledge. Refusal will bring loss. You have one cycle of your sun to decide. The world fell silent. Some gasped, some wept, and many simply stared at the message. For centuries people had wondered if life existed beyond Earth. Now the answer was clear. But the first contact was not an offer of friendship. It was a demand for obedience. Leaders of nations called urgent meetings. Scientists rushed to study the alien broadcast, hoping to find hidden meaning. In homes and communities, people asked one another what this future might mean. Would humans give up their independence to gain safety? Would they dare to stand against such a powerful fleet? In a quiet research center, a small group of scientists gathered. Among them was Myra, an astronomer who had tracked the incoming ships from the beginning. She spoke with steady words. They believe we will bend quickly. But they do not understand what it means to be human. We are not a single voice. We are many, and we choose together. Her colleague, Ryan, nodded. They measure strength in numbers and in size. They think our smaller ships and weaker tools make us powerless. But they do not see our greatest strength, our creativity. Across the oceans, leaders spoke through the Global Council. Some were filled with fear, suggesting surrender before the aliens grew impatient. Others believed Earth should resist in every way possible. The debates lasted through long hours, and each argument carried heavy weight. The aliens had given 1 year. That seemed like time, but for the building of trust and strategy, it was a short window. Children in classrooms asked their teachers if the visitors would be kind. Farmers in the fields wondered if their work still mattered. Artists painted images of Earth standing proud under the stars. Hope and fear mixed in every heart. The alien ships did not attack or move aggressively. They simply stayed near the edge of the solar system, waiting. Their silence was as heavy as their message. From time to time, the fleet shifted slightly, showing that they were watching closely. In one late evening session of the council, an elder stood and spoke words that many remembered: if we surrender now, we may gain safety, but we will lose ourselves. If we stand, even if we struggle, we keep what makes us human. The question is not only about survival. It is about dignity. These words began to spread across Earth. People repeated them in marketplaces, schools, and gatherings. For the first time since the arrival of the fleet, a sense of unity grew. Humans began to realize that their choice was not simply between power and weakness. It was between living as servants or living as free beings who shaped their own path. Still, doubts remained. Could humans, with their small rockets and fragile satellites, truly face such a mighty empire? Myra believed the answer lay not in matching the aliens ship for ship, but in thinking differently. She looked at the night sky, filled with stars and with the glowing fleet, and whispered to herself, "They expect us to surrender. Let us surprise them instead." The stage was set. The aliens waited in silence, confident that humans would submit. But deep within Earth, a quiet determination was beginning to form. Humanity stood at the edge of a new chapter, not as a weak world ready to kneel, but as a people ready to rise. The alien fleet remained near the edge of the solar system. Their presence was like a shadow that stretched over Earth. Day after day, the ships glowed in the night sky, a reminder of the promise and the threat that had been given. People grew restless, waiting for the next message. It came one morning. Again, every screen on Earth flickered and turned to the same image. The tall figure appeared, with glowing eyes and a voice that carried no doubt. "People of Earth, your time is limited. You will join the Empire, or you will be left without protection. Our knowledge can guide you. Our power can shield you. Refuse, and you remain alone in a galaxy that is not kind. You have one cycle of your sun to accept. Do not waste it." The message ended, leaving silence behind. Some felt hope in the promise of knowledge and protection. Others felt anger at the idea of surrender. Families argued around dinner tables. Leaders argued in council chambers. The choice was not simple. In one city, a crowd gathered in a square. Some shouted that joining the empire could bring an end to poverty and sickness. Others raised banners that said Earth should never kneel. The air was filled with voices, none louder than the other. Inside the Global Council Hall, the debate grew stronger. One group of leaders spoke first. They said the aliens had technology far beyond human reach. "With their guidance, we can leap centuries into the future," said one leader. "Why should we struggle alone when we can accept their hand?" But another group refused this view. A leader from the island stood and spoke. "If we give up our freedom, what value will all that knowledge have? We will no longer be the makers of our own story. We will live as shadows of their empire." The hall filled with tension. Each word carried weight. Each decision could shape the future of billions. While leaders debated, scientists worked quietly in their laboratories. Myra and her team studied the alien broadcasts again and again. They listened not only to the words but also to the way the words were given. "They speak as if they already own us," Myra said. "They believe we will choose the easier road. That is why they gave us time. They think we will argue until we break." Her colleague Ryan nodded. "They think strength is only in ships and weapons. They do not understand that humans have strength in other ways. We survive by creating new paths." In towns and villages, ordinary people also shared their thoughts. A teacher in a small school told her students that knowledge was precious but only when freely chosen. A farmer explained to his children that the soil was valuable not because of the crops alone but because it was cared for by hands that were free. These simple voices joined the larger debate, each adding to the growing question of what it truly meant to be human. The aliens continued to watch. From time to time, their ships moved in patterns that could be seen even with the naked eye. Children pointed to them in wonder. Adults watched in silence, their hearts heavy with uncertainty. One evening, the council gathered again. This time the discussion took a new turn. A young scientist was invited to speak. She had no political power but had spent her life studying the history of human progress. She stood before the leaders and spoke clearly. Every great step in human history has come because we dared to stand on our own. We have faced storms, deserts, mountains, and oceans. We did not ask to be carried across. We found ways to cross by ourselves. That is why we have stories to tell. That is why we have art, music, and dreams. If we surrender now, we give away the very spirit that made us human. Her words were simple, yet they struck deeply. The council fell into silence for a long time. Even those who had spoken for surrender sat quietly, reflecting. Still, the choice was not yet made. Some argued that a clever plan could be built by pretending to accept the aliens and then learning from them. Others believed that honesty was the only path, even if it was difficult. In the end, the council agreed on one thing. They would not answer the aliens yet. They would use the time given to prepare. Earth would listen, study, and watch, but also create, build, and plan. Myra looked at the stars that night. The alien fleet still glowed faintly, waiting. She whispered, "They expect us to be divided. They expect us to be weak. Let us show them the strength of unity instead." Across Earth, a quiet shift began. Farmers planted their fields with greater care. Teachers spoke with new hope. Engineers worked through long nights. Musicians sang songs about freedom. The aliens had given an ultimatum, but instead of breaking, humanity was beginning to rise. The year of waiting had started, but it was not only waiting. It was the start of a journey that would surprise even the visitors who thought they already knew the outcome. The alien fleet waited in silence. Their ships hovered far from Earth, but their presence felt close to every person. The deadline still remained, a year that would pass quickly, and every day was filled with questions about what Earth would choose. The Global Council had not yet given an answer, but they had chosen a path. Instead of surrendering early or rushing into conflict, they agreed to prepare in secret. Not by building weapons that matched the aliens, for that was impossible, but by discovering a different kind of power. In laboratories, workshops, and universities, humans began to work together as never before. Walls that once divided nations and institutions started to fall. Scientists shared knowledge freely across borders. Engineers from distant lands joined hands on projects that once would have been kept apart. The goal was clear. Humanity would create something unexpected. Myra continued her work at the research center. She spent long hours studying the movements of the alien fleet, searching for patterns. She noticed how their ships traveled in straight lines, never wasting energy, never showing creativity. "They are perfect machines," she told Ryan one evening. "But perfection can be a weakness. They do not think in strange directions as we do." Ryan agreed. He had been designing small experimental craft inspired by birds and fish. His team looked at how creatures on Earth moved with grace and adaptability. "We cannot build ships as large as theirs," he explained, "but we can build ships that move in ways they cannot expect." In another part of the world, young inventors worked on energy systems that combined ideas from both ancient and modern times. Some looked to the patterns of lightning and storms. Others studied the ways plants captured sunlight. Slowly, new designs were born, strange and unusual, but full of possibility. The aliens watched from afar and sent occasional messages reminding Earth of the deadline. They spoke with the same calm certainty, convinced that humans were wasting time. "You build toys," said one broadcast. "Your efforts will not change your fate." Many humans felt fear at these words, but others found strength in them. If the aliens dismissed their work, it meant they were not watching closely. Across Earth, unity grew stronger. Farmers shared food with research teams. Communities offered their skills to help build new stations and laboratories. Artists painted symbols of Earth rising like a bright star. Children learned songs about hope and freedom. Even those who feared the future found courage in the way humanity worked together. In the council, leaders received regular reports. At first, progress was small, with only ideas and models. But within months, working prototypes appeared. A small craft tested near the ocean moved with surprising speed, weaving like a dolphin through water before lifting into the sky. A new energy cell glowed with steady light, lasting far longer than any earlier design. Each achievement was shared across the world, inspiring more effort. Myra often stood on the balcony of the research center, looking at the alien fleet through her telescope. She whispered to herself, "They see us as children. They cannot imagine what we can do when we are underestimated." Meanwhile, ordinary people also discovered hidden strength. In villages and towns, neighbors supported each other with kindness. In cities, volunteers helped with projects that once seemed too large. The human spirit showed itself not only in science but also in compassion and unity. One evening, the council invited a group of workers, teachers, and students to speak. A young builder from a small town said, "I do not design ships or engines, but I build homes. If I can build a safe home for a family, I can also build safe shelters for workers in the new stations. Every hand matters." These words reminded the council that victory, if it was possible, would not come only from a few leaders or scientists. It would come from the combined effort of all people. Months passed, and Earth's hidden strength grew. The alien fleet did not move closer, but they continued to observe. They expected fear. They expected surrender. But what they did not see was the growing confidence inside humanity. Ryan, finishing the test of his new craft, smiled at Myra. "They think strength is size," he said. "But real strength is imagination. That is something they cannot measure." Myra replied, "And imagination is something we have in endless supply." The year was moving forward, and the aliens still waited for Earth's answer. What they did not know was that their certainty was slowly turning into their mistake. Humanity was not standing still. Humanity was preparing to surprise the galaxy. The alien fleet had been waiting in silence for many months. To the people of Earth, the ships in the sky had become both a threat and a reminder. They reminded humans of the great choice that was still before them, but they also reminded humans of how far they had come in such a short time. By now, Earth had built new craft, small but clever, and powered by unusual energy systems. These designs were not as large or as strong as the alien ships, yet they carried something the aliens had never considered: human imagination. The council decided that the time had come for a first meeting. It would not be a full answer to the ultimatum, but a chance to show that Earth would not come forward with fear alone. They chose one small Terran ship, built with the newest designs, to travel outward and meet the fleet. Myra and Ryan were chosen as part of the crew. Myra would serve as the voice of science, while Ryan would serve as the engineer of the new craft. Alongside them were a pilot named Darren and a communicator named Lyra. The four boarded the sleek ship, which looked small compared to the giant fleet, but carried the quiet strength of Earth's new unity. When the Terran ship left orbit, many on Earth watched. Families gathered around screens, children pointed at the sky, and the council followed every signal with careful attention. The journey outward was short compared to the vastness of space, but every moment felt long. At last, the Terran ship approached the outer rim where the alien fleet waited. The great vessels of silver and blue stood in perfect order, like walls across the stars. Their glowing lights reflected across the Terran ship's surface. A message came immediately. The same calm voice filled the cabin. "Small craft of Earth, you come before the Empire. State your purpose." Myra leaned forward and answered through the communicator. "We come to speak, not to kneel. We come to listen, but also to be heard. We are not children to be ruled. We are people who choose." There was silence for a long moment. Then another voice replied, deeper and sharper. "You send a small vessel, weak and unguarded. Do you expect this to impress us?" Ryan smiled quietly and whispered to Myra, "Wait until they see." The Terran ship activated its special systems. Instead of flying in a straight path, it moved with sudden changes, weaving in patterns inspired by birds and dolphins. The craft shifted direction smoothly, using far less energy than the aliens expected. It disappeared from one set of sensors and reappeared in another, dancing around the edges of the fleet. Inside their vast ships, the aliens watched with surprise. Their instruments struggled to track the small vessel. It was not powerful in the way they measured strength, but it was unpredictable. It moved with creativity, not order. The voice returned, now carrying a trace of curiosity. "Your craft is unusual. Your design is not of Empire standard. How did you create this?" Myra answered calmly. "We look to the world around us. The flight of birds, the swim of fish, the path of the wind. Our strength is not in size but in imagination." The aliens did not reply immediately. For the first time, there was no tone of command in their silence. It was a silence of thought. The meeting continued with words exchanged. The aliens repeated their offer of protection and knowledge, but Myra spoke firmly. "Knowledge is precious only when chosen freely. Protection is valuable only when given with respect. If you wish to walk with us, it must be as equals." The aliens gave no promise, but neither did they dismiss the Terran crew. Their final message was short. "Return to your world. The Empire will consider." The Terran ship turned back toward Earth. As it traveled, the crew sat quietly, each feeling the weight of what had happened. They had stood before the Empire and had not bowed. They had shown something new, something the aliens had not expected. When the ship re-entered Earth's orbit, people across the planet cheered. It was not a victory, but it was proof. Proof that humans could meet the Empire with dignity. Proof that imagination could stand against power. That night, Myra looked at the stars once more. She whispered, "This is only the beginning. They expected fear, but we gave them surprise. They expected silence, but we gave them our voice." The first encounter had ended, but its meaning spread across Earth. Humanity now believed that they could rise, not as servants, but as equals in the galaxy. The first meeting with the alien fleet had ended, and the world was changed. For the first time, people on Earth saw that their small ship, built with creativity and cooperation, could stand in front of the great empire without fear. The aliens had not left, but their silence now carried a different tone. They were no longer certain of Earth's weakness. Back on the planet, people celebrated quietly, not with loud triumph but with renewed hope. Farmers in fields smiled as they looked up at the sky. Teachers spoke proudly to their students about the Terran crew. Engineers worked with greater energy, knowing their efforts had meaning. humanity had taken its first step toward becoming something greater, and the step had been made together. The Council called for a new phase of action. They announced that Earth would not surrender. Instead, Earth would prepare to live as an equal voice among the stars. To achieve this, the entire planet must work as one. New stations were planned in orbit, not as weapons but as centers for research and cooperation. Every region of Earth contributed what it could. Nations that once competed began to share resources. Ships carried supplies across oceans, and aircraft flew day and night to transport parts for the growing projects. Myra and Ryan traveled between different research centers, guiding teams and sharing discoveries. Myra often spoke to young scientists, reminding them that their ideas mattered. No idea is too small, she told them. Even the tiniest thought can grow into something that surprises the galaxy. Ryan worked closely with builders and engineers. He admired their creativity, whether they were designing large systems or solving small problems. Each tool is a piece of the puzzle, he explained. Together, these pieces form the strength of Earth. In small towns, people found ways to support the larger mission. Farmers increased food production to feed the workers at the new stations. Artists created murals of Earth rising proudly among the stars. Musicians sang songs of unity that were played on radios across the planet. The movement was no longer limited to leaders and scientists. It had become a shared spirit, carried by every person. The aliens, watching from their fleet, grew impatient. They sent another message to Earth. Their tall figure appeared again on every screen. You continue to resist. You waste time building stations that will not save you. Your year grows shorter. Submit, and we will share our power. Refuse, and you remain in the darkness. The message spread quickly. Some felt afraid again, hearing the same commanding voice. But the council replied with calm words. We do not build to save ourselves from you. We build to strengthen ourselves for the future. We will not live as shadows. We will live as equals. The aliens gave no answer to this reply. Their silence returned, but now it was filled with curiosity and caution. Meanwhile, work continued at a remarkable pace. A large station began to form in orbit, built piece by piece with the help of workers from every continent. Each part carried a mark from its builders. Some panels were made in mountain factories, others in coastal workshops, and others in desert plants. When joined together, the station became a symbol of Earth's unity. The station was not only a place of science. It also carried gardens with plants from many lands, so that every astronaut could feel a piece of home. Children who visited the station with their families saw trees from their own countries growing beside plants from faraway regions. For them, the sky became a place of shared belonging. One evening, the council invited citizens from different walks of life to speak. A teacher from a village said, "We may not know the secrets of the stars, but we know the power of working together. That is the lesson we teach our children." A farmer added, "The soil gives more when it is cared for with many hands. Earth is the same. We give more when we stand together." These simple words carried the same weight as the speeches of leaders. They reminded everyone that unity was not only about ships and stations. It was about people seeing each other as part of the same story. Myra, looking at the new station through her telescope, felt proud. "This is the answer to their ultimatum," she said to Ryan. "Not fear, not silence, but creation. We show them who we are by what we build." Ryan smiled. "And what we build is not only steel and engines. It is trust." The year was passing quickly, and the alien deadline was drawing near. But Earth was no longer trembling. The people of Earth were not hiding. They were standing, building, and dreaming. The Empire had expected submission. Instead, they were witnessing the rise of Terran unity, a force that could not be measured in size but in spirit. The alien fleet continued to hover at the edge of the solar system. From their ships, they watched Earth with sharp attention, expecting the humans to bow before them. But instead of fear, they found determination. Instead of hesitation, they found action. Humans had spent the past months building stations, improving ships, and learning to work together in ways the aliens had never imagined. Now, Earth was ready to demonstrate its hidden strength. The first challenge came unexpectedly. The aliens decided to test human capability by disabling one of Earth's satellites. The satellite had been used to monitor the outer space region and to communicate with the small craft built to meet the fleet. Suddenly, its signals went dark. The people of Earth did not panic. Engineers in orbit control rooms and on the ground worked in unison. Myra and Ryan were called to the main command center. Together, they studied the problem. "They want to see if we will break," Myra said calmly. "We will show them we can recover and improve." Teams across continents began to repair the satellite network. Using a combination of new energy systems and clever design, they rebuilt it faster than anyone expected. Not only did the satellite return to operation, but it also performed better than before, with stronger signals and more efficient data transmission. The aliens observed in surprise. Their instruments had measured strength only by size and firepower. They had not counted on adaptability, speed, and teamwork. The small people of Earth had overcome a challenge that, by their standards, should have taken years. Meanwhile, humans continued to innovate. New Terran ships demonstrated tactics that confused the aliens' sensors. They moved in unpredictable patterns, using agility rather than brute force. Small craft flew in coordinated groups, following strategies that relied on cooperation, observation, and quick decision-making. From the alien fleet, the commander sent another message. "Your actions are clever, but they are temporary. You cannot match the Empire's power." Myra looked at Ryan and said, "It is not about matching their power. It is about using our own in ways they cannot measure." The aliens sent another probe to test the Terran stations in orbit. It approached quickly, scanning every module. The people of Earth were ready. The probe encountered a series of unexpected fields and energy patterns that the engineers had created. It could not navigate the stations properly, and its instruments gave confusing results. Back on Earth, the Council observed the results and smiled quietly. They were not boasting, but the humans had begun to show their first real advantage. The Empire assumed that speed and size were the only measures of strength. Humans had discovered another measure: adaptability and ingenuity. Ryan visited one of the orbital stations, checking the energy systems and speaking with engineers. "They think our small stations are weak," he said. "But small things can be clever. Clever things can surprise even giants." Myra added, "And when cleverness comes from unity, it cannot be defeated." As the days passed, humans continued to grow in confidence. Even ordinary citizens noticed the change. Children learned that innovation and cooperation could create results beyond imagination. Farmers, teachers, and workers saw that their contributions mattered in ways they had never realized. Every small act was now part of the greater rise of Terran power. The aliens began to sense the truth. Their initial certainty had been shaken. These humans were not simply clever, they were united, determined, and creative. They adapted quickly, learned from mistakes, and turned challenges into advantages. One evening, Myra stood on a balcony, looking at the stars. The alien fleet glowed faintly against the black sky. She whispered, "They thought this year would end in our surrender. They do not see that humans rise when they are underestimated. We are not weak, and we are not afraid." Ryan joined her and said, "This is only the beginning. Soon, they will understand that Earth is not a world to be commanded. It is a world that stands on its own." The turning point had begun. The aliens, confident in their empire, had underestimated the quiet power of humans. They had expected submission, but instead they were seeing the rise of Terran strength. Strength that came not from machines alone, but from creativity, unity, and determination. Earth had learned a lesson that even the Empire would have to acknowledge. Power was not only in size and control. True power was in the courage to create, the will to unite, and the ability to rise above expectation. The countdown to the aliens' ultimatum continued, but now, humans faced it with quiet confidence. They were no longer waiting for instructions. They were ready to show the galaxy the strength that had always been inside them. The year was nearly over. The alien fleet still hovered above the solar system, waiting for Earth's final response. Every planet, every ocean, every city had felt the presence of these ships. People had prepared, built, and learned together. Earth was no longer a world of scattered nations, it was a united planet, strong in spirit and in action. Inside the Global Council, Myra and Ryan spoke to the leaders and citizens who had gathered to hear the final plan. "We do not approach this as children asking for mercy," Myra said. "We approach as humans who know their strength. We do not seek to fight for submission. We offer to rise as equals." The council sent a carefully composed message to the alien fleet. It was clear and confident. "We have listened to your words. We have seen your power. But Earth will not bow. We choose not to be servants. We choose to be creators, explorers, and partners. If your empire wishes to walk among us, it must walk as an equal, not as a ruler." For a long moment, there was silence. The people of Earth waited together, holding their breath. Families, students, and workers watched screens across the world. The alien fleet remained still, no ship moving closer or away. Then a message came. The alien commander appeared, but there was no arrogance in the voice this time. "Your confidence is unusual. Your unity is remarkable. We expected surrender, but we see something we did not predict. Perhaps your kind is not as weak as we assumed." Myra and Ryan exchanged quiet smiles. The words were not a full acceptance, but they were recognition. The aliens had finally understood that Earth was different. Humans were not a world to command. They were a world to respect. Over the following days, humans continued to demonstrate their abilities. Terran ships carried out exercises in space, showing techniques that relied on coordination, observation, and creativity. Stations in orbit operated smoothly, with systems that adjusted automatically to new challenges. Even small communities on Earth found ways to contribute, from growing special plants for research to designing new energy systems for the stations. The aliens observed and learned. They studied humans in ways they had never done before, taking note of how people shared knowledge, solved problems, and supported one another. For the first time, they saw that strength could be measured in more than firepower or numbers. One evening, Myra looked at the sky and whispered to Ryan, "They expected us to fear. They expected us to bend. We have shown them something more powerful than fear or weapons. We have shown them unity and courage." Ryan nodded. We have built not only stations and ships but trust, hope, and the belief that together, we can rise higher than they imagined. News from around the world reflected the same feeling. Children learned songs about Earth's rise among the stars. Teachers spoke of imagination and cooperation as the greatest powers. Communities celebrated the idea that every person mattered, and that every effort contributed to a larger story. The alien fleet slowly began to withdraw from the immediate orbit of the solar system. Their presence did not vanish, but they no longer hovered as if Earth were a threat to control. Instead, they gave space, watching carefully, respecting the planet that had once seemed so weak. Myra and Ryan looked at the stars from their station in orbit. "They have learned a lesson," Myra said. "Strength is not in forcing submission. Strength is in rising together and showing what is possible." Ryan smiled. "And we have learned it too. This is only the beginning for humans. We will continue to explore, to create, and to rise." Across Earth, people celebrated quietly, with pride that came not from defeating others but from discovering themselves. Humanity had faced an empire that expected submission, and instead, they had risen. They had shown the galaxy the power of cooperation, imagination, and unity. In the end, the alien fleet understood that the people of Earth were not to be commanded or underestimated. They had expected weakness, and they had seen something entirely different: a world of courage, intelligence, and spirit. And so Earth shone brightly among the stars, no longer a small, fearful planet. It was a world that had risen, not through fear or weapons, but through the strength that comes from unity, creativity, and the will to stand together. Humanity had not only survived, they had begun a new chapter, one in which they would explore the galaxy as equals, carrying the spirit of Terran power far beyond their home planet. The rise of Terran power had begun, and the galaxy would never forget the lesson that even the smallest world could shine with brilliance when its people chose to rise.